Hi folks, Brian here. So let's go ahead and jump into the content. What we're going to be doing throughout this entire series of videos is sharing excerpts from the book that I talk about, that I expound upon, because you get some information within the book, but as I shared previously, I had to condense a lot just to fit everything within 350 pages. So I'll be sharing some additional insights, some stories along the way, hopefully make the content come to life a bit for you. And I wanted to start near the beginning just with some foundational concepts. So the first few videos that you're going to see in this channel are going to be a ground setting. Let's set the ground table so we know where to go on our path. And the first big piece is the Harmonic Leadership Keys that you see on the screen here. When I first started working on this content years and years ago, I started to come up with what is in effect a capability model. So you have individual competencies. So in leadership, you have competencies. You need to be able to communicate goals. You need to be able to hold a one-on-one meeting. You need to be able to set expectations. You need to be able to do all these little individual competency-based things in order to lead a team effectively. But those competencies then go into an overall capability. So many organizations do have a capability model for leadership, and oftentimes they will map individual competencies into that overall capability. So the Harmonic Leadership Keys, leading with inclusive mindful caring, these 8 keys are basically that. It's leadership capabilities. You can consider the difference of competencies and capabilities. I like to use the analogy of baseball. In my youth, I played from age 5 to 18. It was like my sport. And I pitched, and I also played shortstop. I also played first base, second base, third base, kind of wherever they needed me. I was a utility player, but my primary position, as long as everyone was there, my primary position was shortstop. So playing shortstop is a capability, but within that capability, you need to be able to catch the ball effectively. You need to be able to move left and right with a broad range, because that's the broadest range required on the field is a shortstop. Able to dive for balls to catch them, able to accurately throw to first base, able to quickly turn a double play, working with the other infielders. You need to have all of these individual competencies in order to do the capability of playing shortstop. So that's a little analogy hopefully will help you to discern. So when we look at these 8 keys and tying it into the whole musical theme of harmonic leadership, there are basically 8 steps within a scale. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's weird. I rarely say them out loud. In my head, I play them all the time, and I hear them all the time. There's actually 12 individual steps when you count all of the notes on the keyboard, including the black and the white keys, with the sharps and the flats. There's actually 12 notes within a scale, but there's 8 steps within that scale. So I thought it only fitting that we create a capability model with 8 capabilities. And it just happened to tie into the acronym of harmonic, since there are 8 letters. So it just seemed to fit, which is why I developed it in this way. You'll have to excuse me on these videos. I do suffer from xerostomia, dry mouth syndrome, and I also have massive allergies. So I will occasionally have to stop and take a drink just to reapply fluid on the throat so I can continue talking. So you have to just get used to that. But when we look at these 8 leadership keys, heighten performance by aspiring to achieve goals. That's step number 1. I should say that also each of these correspond with a chapter in the book. So we have setting baselines as the first chapter, and we'll get into that to establish those baselines, as if the bass player is laying down that bass track. But then each of the subsequent chapters, for the 9 chapters in total, follow this path. So for each one of these capabilities, you have a whole chapter of content to help you to build this capability. So the first one, as I mentioned, heightened performance by aspiring to achieve goals. And what you see in the subline kind of hints at the individual competencies that it takes to be able to perform that capability. So utilize balanced management leadership to set and reach aspirational expectations. I know it sounds a bit poetic on some of these, but it was encapsulating all of the content within that chapter in such a way that it did it justice. So the second one, activate leadership by showing positive strengths. That's where we're going to talk about creating a positive leadership style and keeping negativity at bay. Yeah, we all have bad days, but if we can manage it as much as possible, it won't cause issues within our leadership. Next is reaching understanding by communicating clearly. That's flexing to meet the communication needs. And flex is a term you'll hear throughout. Just a way to meet someone where they need to be met in terms of communication so they can clearly understand what is being communicated. Next is motivate greatness, to aim for the highest level, reaching these intrinsic motivators. So we're going to talk about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivators, the power of those intrinsic motivators, and a way to find the individual motivators for each person who you happen to lead. And I'll state again that even though this is focused on the workplace, this definitely works in our private lives as well, with our family groups, our friend groups, our community groups that we're involved in. Regardless of where we show up as a leader, we can use all of these skills that you're going to learn, all of these knowledge, skills, and abilities to help in all areas of life. Next is optimize teaming, to strengthen commitment by strengthening the team to grow in collaborative, resilient, and inclusive culture. And by doing this, we are, in effect, creating this team that can get to that point of strengthening. So you'll be introduced to the TEAMS model, which the S in the TEAMS acronym is strengthening. To get the team to that point where we're going and we're flowing and we're moving and we're shaking and we're doing everything the right way to the greatest effect. Next is nurture growth for continual development, providing the path to potential with learning, development, and coaching. Each of us as leaders, regardless of our level in the organization, regardless of the number of people within our element of care, we can grow other people. It's also about growing ourselves as well, making sure that we constantly are in a growth mindset, looking for ways to learn, to grow, and helping others too as well. Next is increase focus through mindful attention. Develop deeper focus and concentration on what is most important. As a certified mindfulness teacher, and you'll find throughout the theme of the book, there's going to be mindful elements. I will infuse some of that within these videos as well, because those mindful moments can help us to increase our focus on those most important aspects. Unfortunately, in the workplace, we tend to get distracted. It tends to be a lot of activity, especially if you're in an in-office situation. So it's often hard to focus on that most important thing. We can get that email that is not really important, but we feel that obligation to reply to it quickly. But can we balance that? Can we say, well, I'm going to reply to it at the end of the day so I can continue to focus on this most important item at this time? And lastly, perhaps most importantly, is create trust to foster inclusion and caring, building that inclusive and respectful culture where trust is fully shared. And I could add shared by all, not just some. So this is bringing everything together to this last chapter in the book of creating this trustful environment, this safe space for us all to work and live together so we can all be who we were intended to be. So there you go. That's going to be it for this introductory video to this to the layout of the land. I will come back though and show you the table of contents as well, just to remind you that chapter 1 is establishing baselines. We're actually going to start there. It's all about leadership rhythm, and we'll talk about how each of us as leaders have our own individual rhythm that we bring to the team, and that will be a constant theme throughout as well. And I'm going to stress again what you see at the bottom of the introduction, and that is the key to developing as a leader is to increase self-awareness. This book will provide the key. I like to think of it as this book will hopefully help us all to open our eyes. I know it did as I wrote it through these many, many years. It's putting together everything that I've learned, everything that I've considered, everything that I've philosophized about in leadership throughout my entire 30-plus year career. And the process of putting the book together, of sequencing all of the content, definitely helped me to open my eyes, even at this late stage in my career. So the hope is that it will do the same for you. All right, well, that's it for this episode. Please tune back in so you can continue this learning journey with me. Be well, everyone.